On Saturday, Serbia's president Aleksandar Vucic announced that he would be resigning in the coming weeks to campaign for the ruling Serbian Progressive Party, apparently to be renamed United Serbia at the next parliamentary election. The announcement came during a rally organised by the ruling SNS party under the slogan Serbia One Family, in a sort of response to the student-led anti-government protests that have now been going on for the past 18 months. So in this video, we're going to explain why Vucic is resigning, and whether this means that we've seen the end of the man who's effectively ruled Serbia for over a decade. Hint, probably not. Despite its sometimes overwhelming presence, there are still a handful of EU countries not using the euro. Why is this? And what's going on with the euro's missing members? That's just one of 80 pages in the magazine, because there's more in too long than you'd expect. Purchase your copy by clicking the link in the description. So, to understand why Vucic's resignation is such big news, you need to understand quite how dominant a position he occupies in Serbian politics. Vucic began his political career in 1993 as a member of the Serbian Radical Party, or SRS, an ultra-nationalist party that supports the creation of some sort of Greater Serbia. In 1995, he became the Secretary-General of SRS, and in 1998 he was appointed Minister of Information in Serbia, which was at the time a constituent of the Republic of Yugoslavia, which was led by Serbian nationalist Slobodan Milosevic. During his tenure as minister, Vucic implemented a series of restrictive media laws to essentially protect Milosevic, including imposing fines on critical journalists and banning foreign TV networks. After Milosevic's ousting, Serbian politics was dominated by the Democratic Party, who pushed Serbia closer to the West, and more specifically the EU and NATO. During his time in opposition, Vucic gradually pivoted towards a more pro-European politics, and actually left the SRS for the pro-European Serbian Progressive Party, or SNS, in 2008. SNS emerged as the largest party in the 2012 election, and while Vucic wasn't formally Prime Minister, many people saw him as the most powerful figure in the subsequent coalition government. SNS then won an outright majority in 2014, and Vucic became Prime Minister. After winning another election in 2016, Vucic stepped down as Prime Minister in 2017 to compete in the presidential election, which he won, before winning a second term in 2022. Constitutionally, the president is supposed to play a mostly ceremonial role in Serbian politics, but obviously that's not true in Vucic's case. He's still the leader of SNS and acts as essentially both the head of state and the head of government. So, you get the idea. Vucic has been a big name in Serbian politics since 1998 and has effectively led the country since 2014, or arguably even 2012. However, in the past 18 months or so, Vucic has faced one of his biggest political challenges yet, in the form of massive and ongoing anti-government protests. The proximate cause of these protests was the collapse of a canopy at the main railway station in Novi Sad, Serbia's second biggest city after Belgrade, in November 2024, which killed 16 people. The canopy's collapse and the government's cack-handed response was seen by Vucic's detractors as a symptom of the systemic corruption that pervades the Serbian state, and the protests quickly spiralled out into a wider anti-government movement. The protests were originally led by students, but have now expanded to include basically any group in Serbian society that feels betrayed by the government. They've been massive and sustained, according to independent estimates from a group called AJS. The largest single demonstration in March 2025 attracted something like 300,000 people, roughly 5% of Serbia's entire population, and, if the numbers are correct, the largest protest since the fall of strongman President Slobodan Milosevic in 2000. As recently as May this year, something like 200,000 people turned out in Belgrade, although we should say that, somewhat unsurprisingly, the government disputes these numbers. Vucic has, for the most part, taken a pretty hard line with the protesters, but signalled earlier this year that he was considering calling early parliamentary elections, which has been one of the protesters' long-standing demands. In May, for instance, he told Serbia's state broadcaster that he was considering bringing the parliamentary election, which would otherwise be due for December 2027 at the latest, forward to sometime between late September and mid-November. For context, this is a pretty classic Vucic move. He has a knack for calling sudden snap elections when he feels the opposition is weak, and it usually works out for him. Vucic has tried this trick 3 times in the past, in 2016, 2022 and 2023, and each time SNS have topped the polls. However, while parliamentary elections have been on the cards for a couple of months now, it wasn't clear, at least until Saturday, whether Vucic was going to do the same thing with the presidential election. For context, in Serbia, parliamentary and presidential elections are usually held separately, largely because the Serbian president is elected for a 5-year term, while Serbian MPs are nominally elected for 4-year terms, although snap elections are very common. Had the president and parliament both been allowed to complete their terms, this is what would have happened next year. The presidential election was due for May 2027, while the parliamentary election was due for December. However, Vucic's decision to resign as president, which would obviously trigger presidential elections, means that, if he also goes ahead with early parliamentary elections, there's a good chance they'll be held simultaneously. So, does this mean we've seen the end of Alexander Vucic? Well, probably not. Constitutionally, Vucic can't run for a third term as president. There's nothing stopping him, however, from running as an MP at the parliamentary elections if they happen at the same time, in order to return as prime minister. Vucic seemed to allude to this possibility in Saturday's speech, saying, quote, "In the upcoming elections, if the party wants that and asks for it, together with you, I will help win people's trust." This is something he also mentioned during a Bloomberg interview last month, when he said his return as Prime Minister might happen because SNS might need his leadership. Of course, this all depends on SNS, or if they actually go ahead with the rebrand, then United Serbia actually winning the next election. But this looks pretty likely at the moment, in large part because the anti-government protesters have failed to crystallise into a coherent, unified opposition party that could really challenge SNS. Conversely, Vucic remains, by some distance, both the best-known and most popular politician in Serbia. The most recent poll we could find, for instance, put SNS on 47% of the vote, with a hypothetical student list party, essentially a protesters' party, on 31%. The protesters might have a better chance at the presidential election, because it's easier to sort out a single candidate than a whole political party, and because Vucic won't be running. But the next president won't have as much power as Vucic did, given that Vucic derived his not from the president's constitutional prerogatives, but rather from his central role in SNS and Serbian politics more generally. And if you're thinking that that was a lot to take in, on top of the thousands of other stories happening around the globe right now, you're not wrong. You might even feel powerless in today's climate, and we promise you, you're not alone. If, like us, you're looking for evidence that people can still make a difference, we know exactly the place to go, and that place is Planet Wild. Planet Wild is a community-based nature protection organisation that's passionate about helping our planet, one step at a time. The power we have as a collective really shines bright through Planet Wild, as your membership directly funds a mission every month to give our planet a helping hand. These missions span from ensuring the ongoing survival of endangered animals like the grizzly bear to cleaning up rivers before plastic reaches the ocean, and even rewilding Europe's last ancient forest. And with Planet Wild, you know exactly what you are funding. They don't leave you wondering where your money is going, because they document all these missions in video reports here on YouTube, so we can see exactly what we've helped to achieve. The impact we've made will be right before our eyes. Planet Wild is for those who are tired of words and want to see action. So if you want to join the growing community of people committed to actually making a difference, you can for as little as $6 a month. Every contribution matters, big or small. And if that hasn't convinced you, the first 100 people to sign up and use code NEWSEU6 will get their first month membership paid for entirely by us. That's how passionate we are about Planet Wild. So, by joining today, you'll immediately make a difference and even be able to see your impact in less than 30 days on YouTube right here. You can cancel your membership at any time, so there's absolutely no catch, just an easy and remarkable way to create real and lasting change. If you want to see them in action, check out their mission protecting grizzly bears and other wild species by building the biggest wildlife corridor in America.